Listening Library presents Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow, Books 4 to 6, The Sword of Cortés, The Age of Bronze and Silver, by Rob Kidd, read for you by Andrew Fallaize.
Chapter 1. Jack Sparrow's mates, the fearless crew of the mighty Barnacle, had finally been shaken. They'd been searching so long for the Sword of Cortés, a weapon with unearthly power, that they had lost track of time. Had it been days, weeks, or months since they'd first set out on their quest and encountered sea beasts, cursed pirates, and the cunning and vicious merfolk? No one could remember exactly, but they knew it had felt like a long and tiring journey. They had arrived on Isla Fortuna only that morning. They discovered that the notorious pirate Left-Foot Louis was in possession of the sword. He had used its power to cause all of the honest people of Isla Fortuna to vanish. In just a few hours, the crew had defeated the vicious pirate and finally procured from him their prize. The sword was in their hands now, reunited with its scabbard. They knew from legend that when the two charmed parts of the weapon were joined and an ancient incantation read, the sword would become imbued with godlike power. Jack Sparrow had done all that. But when he waved the sword and spouted off the first few magical spells that came to mind, nothing happened. He wasn't able to make anything disappear or transform, things he thought a magic sword should be able to do easily. In fact, the sword seemed less powerful now than it ever had. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Jack was frustrated. He was about to toss the sword away, but the horrified looks on the faces of his crew told him that he should reconsider. A second later, Jack realized they were looking at something behind him. He whirled around and saw, well, he wasn't quite sure what it was. Jack's first mate, Arabella, was quick to fill him in. "Jack," she said, "don't ye realise what's happened? The pirate's stories lacked a wee detail. The incantation ye read brought back the sword's owner. This is the spirit of Hernán Cortés, risen from the dead." Jack sized up the phantom. Was Arabella sure he had risen from the dead? The chap still looked pretty unalive to Jack. The pale, sallow man was clad in old Spanish armour. The stench of rot hung around him. Jack waved his hand in front of his face and coughed to vanquish the smell. But it didn't work. Cortés was one stinky conquistador. His glowing red eyes glared at Jack. Then Jack did what any good adventure-seeking captain would do. He stepped up to Cortés and introduced himself. "Well, hello there, mate," Jack said, extending his hand. "Captain Jack Sparrow. How very nice to meet you." Apart from Cortés's chest, which heaved and fell heavily, Jack thought this rather odd for a dead or undead guy, Cortés did not move. His breath stank like a barrel of rotten fish. Jack smiled uncomfortably, coughed, and dropped his arm. "So, mate, I suspect you've materialised here, from wherever it is you dead people go, in order to get the sword back, eh?" Cortés leaned forward, attempting to bow. This appeared to be quite difficult for him. His armour creaked and his bones seemed to crack. "The sword," Cortés said, in thickly accented English, "is now yours. You read the incantation, you invoked its power." The crew of the Barnacle was shocked and impressed that Jack was so at ease talking to a dead fellow. "So then," Jack said, "why are you here? A genie from the bottle or something like that? Just come along for the ride? Stick by ye old sword whenever it may be imbued with godlike power? Oh, wait, let me correct myself. Ye old sword that is supposed to have been imbued with godlike power." Jack tapped the blade with his index finger. "Your little metal stick doesn't seem to be doing much of anything right now." "I am here, boy," Cortés said in a grave voice, clearly trying to put Jack in his place, "to teach you how to use this weapon." Jack's eyes brightened, and he turned to his crew, smiling broadly. The crew was much less at ease with the current situation than their captain. Jack cleared his throat and clapped his hands together. "So, when do my lessons begin?" Cortés stepped forward, his armor grating and squeaking. "Now," he answered. There was a long pause. Cortés did not say anything more. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Want to give me a little more instruction than that, mate?" Jack asked. Behind his hand, he whispered to Arabella, "Now we know why he was a conquistador and not a schoolteacher in his former life." "Take the sword and point it toward the port's docks," Cortés told him. From the hilltop graveyard where they stood, Jack had a clear view of the docks below. He lifted the sword and pointed it at the dock farthest from where they had moored the Barnacle. An unbelievably powerful current of energy flowed through Jack's body and out through the sword. Instantly it blew the empty dock out of the water. "Whoa!" was all Jack could muster. He examined the blade closely. It was smoking and smelled of sulphur. He could feel heat radiating from it onto his face. Cortés smiled. Jack quickly whirled around and pointed the sword at Constance, the mangy, obnoxious cat that Jack's crewmate Jean claimed was his sister under a curse. "Begone!" Jack shouted. "Constance!" Jean cried out in horror, but nothing happened. Constance just hissed at Jack, stretched and yawned. Then she sat down and curled her twitching tail around her. "I knew it wouldn't work, or else I wouldn't have tried it," Jack said quietly to Jean. He hoped he sounded convincing. Jean wasn't buying it. He scowled at Jack and ran to Constance, gathering the nasty, matted cat up in his arms. Just then, Cortés stepped up behind Jack. Cortés placed his slimy, decaying hands over Jack's and gripped the sword with him. "Do you think we can use this sword to clean you up a bit, mate? Maybe just to get rid of that awful smell?" Jack asked. Cortés did not seem to be bothered by Jack's quips. He extended Jack's arms, pointing the sword toward the sea. Another rush of energy flowed through Jack. A haze of vapour began to rise off the sea. It rapidly became thicker. Within seconds, the water along the entire coast of Isla Fortuna was violently boiling. Cortés stepped away from Jack, smiling smugly, and the sea simmered down. Then Cortés stepped up to Jack again, holding the sword together with him once more. Jack looked out at the turquoise Caribbean. The cutlass! In all the excitement, Jack had shoved to the back of his mind that despite the fact that the pirate himself was gone, Left Foot Louis's ship and crew were still docked right off the island. Cortés positioned Jack's arms and the sword so that they were directly in line with the cutlass. The huge pirate ship with its signature crimson Jolly Roger shimmered on the sea. Then, with a quick blink, the ship vanished. "Guess that threat is over with," Jack said flatly. His crew was in awe. "Neither the ship nor the crew will interfere with you any longer," Cortés said. Jack shifted uncomfortably, unsettled by the fact that Cortés had made an entire ship and its crew disappear, and all the while Jack had been holding the mystical sword. Cortés stepped away from Jack again. Jack wiped Cortés's slimy grime from his hands and stared at the sword in awe. He looked at Cortés, who was still smiling, then turned his attention back to the sword, which glowed with a waning power the way a hot iron would as it cooled. Finally, Jack turned to his crewmates. Their expressions ranged from uneasy to terrified. Could no one share in his enthusiasm? Jack rolled his eyes and stomped over to his trusted crew, who were waiting for him at the foot of the hill. Tuman, a Mayan sailor, looked particularly troubled. "Tuman," Jack said, smiling. He slapped the young sailor on the back. "Look alive, mate. What's eating at you?" "I'm just not feeling very well," Tuman said. "He does look pale," Arabella said, touching Tuman's forehead. "And he has a bit of a fever, too." "Well, never fear, Tuman, mate," Jack said. "Once I learn to properly wield this sword, I'll make you right as rain." "Jack," Tuman said, shaking his head and clearly straining to speak, "I don't trust this sword." "Well, you didn't seem to have any trust issues prior to discovering it." "That was before I saw what she could do," Tuman urged. "This type of power is dangerous, and what's worse is Cortés." Tuman looked over at the ghastly figure and shuddered.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?